Welcome back to the Two-Pointers podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. I'm excited here to talk about the NBA Christmas Day games. First of all, Merry Christmas. Hope everyone had a great time this week. Happy holidays, whatever you might be celebrating. Question of the day today, as you'll see on the board behind me if you're on YouTube, let me know your favorite gift that you received. I'll show you guys mine really quick. I got plenty of great things. This might not be my favorite. My favorite NBA gift for sure, though. The Mitchell and Ness, shout out to my mother-in-law, name engraved Mitchell and Ness Charlotte Hornets throwback flat bill snapback. I forget all the terms for those, but super excited for this gift. I'm going to wear this all the time in pods. If you get sick of seeing it, let me know in the comments. We're going to talk about today, obviously, yesterday in the NBA series. I covered 60 seconds worth of the Christmas games, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper for the sake of a couple of things. Obviously, there's a lot of things you can watch on Christmas Day now, but I spent most of my day with my family and watching the NBA. I think there's a lot of good takeaways. Some of this stuff stems from the fact that, first of all, I apologize, haven't covered the NBA like super, super thoroughly in terms of, let me get every single thought out of my head of every single team. Being solo, I'm still learning the process and understanding how to do this. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about all 10 teams that played on Christmas Day. So a takeaway of some kind that stemmed from either Christmas Day or my thoughts over the last couple of weeks, months that we might have seen come to fruition on Christmas Day. A couple of things might be shocking. Some of these might not be, just because I've been very vocal about some of these teams, either on social media or on the time that I have talked about them on this podcast. So really cool thing, too, really quick before I get started. If you haven't heard yet or haven't seen it or didn't watch last week, listen last week, totally fine. I have partnered with Dubby Energy to provide a energy supplement solution. My code is TwoPointers, 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 or the link will be in the description below. You can purchase some Dubby Energy products to kickstart yourself for the new year. If you're going to be working out as part of your New Year's resolution, that's going to be mine. So Dubby Energy provides some really great energy solutions for you if you haven't heard already. So let's go and get started talking about the Christmas Day game takeaways, storylines, etc. We'll start with Sixers-Knicks. I'll start with the Sixers-Knicks, Lakers-Mavs, go from there. I'll do away team, home team. You'll see the theme as we go. Sixers-Knicks. The first thing with the Sixers that stuck out to me or that I wanted to discuss was James Harden, based on his play right now, will not be the reason the Sixers flame out in the playoffs. Unfortunately, for the sake of Sixers fans, you're going to hear this again. Maybe fortunately, if you believe me, or in on this. Shout out to Julian. But NBA report cards, him and I talked about how D for Fire Doc Rivers, or F for Fire Doc Rivers, whatever we ended up giving them. James Harden's play right now has been exceptional. Obviously, he had 20-plus again last night and 14 assists. Obviously, Embiid's getting the ball really, really well in spots. Probably the best playmaker he's played with ever. That's no disrespect to Ben Simmons. It's just the level of play that James Harden's providing him right now. And I have to say, for the sake of the way Philly's running their offense, obviously they just got everybody back healthy here in the last 2 weeks. Harden was out for the month. You had a couple guys in and out of the lineup. Obviously, Embiid's been fully healthy for the most part. James Harden will not be the reason that the Sixers flame out in the playoffs, because he's playing unbelievable now. People are going to sit here and tell me that the James Harden we saw in Houston, who did flame out in the playoffs after having a great MVP-type season, was the reason that they flamed out. I just don't see that happening again. The sustainability of what he's doing as a playmaker goes beyond his scoring ability, and they have enough talent around Embiid and him especially where they can figure out ways to win playoff games. The problem is, how can they be coached in that situation? So Doc Rivers will be the reason, unfortunately, for the sake of Sixers fans. But James Harden's play has been unbelievable. Like I said, emphasis on the playmaking. That's really, really important to know, because obviously, if they have situations where they'll need a bucket in the playoffs, you've got two ways you can do it. You've got a 3-level scorer in James Harden, as well as you've got an MVP-type player in Joel Embiid, who can pretty much fill it up anywhere inside of 10 feet, as well as stretch it out. So the Sixers are not going to have any issues from James Harden, I hope, down the stretch. That is my not necessarily prediction. This is just more so from what I've seen so far in almost 3 months of NBA basketball, 30-plus games now. James Harden's playmaking ability will be a difference maker for them. Let's go down here to the Knicks. This Knicks team I don't want to spend forever on, because they're just, quite frankly, they just disgust me. It's just so hard to watch that team. I'm just looking for R.J. Barrett and Quentin Grimes to have good games. Emmanuel quickly, too. I'm not as high on him as I was Grimes or Barrett. But just the key emphasis there on the team as currently constructed doesn't make any sense, or maybe it's the wrong coach that I've been saying for 3.5 months. Tom Thibodeau is not the right coach for this team as a young team constructed. defensively, sure, they're one of the top 10, 15 defensive teams in the league. 15 would be just saying that they're a top half team, obviously, but I don't think Coach Tibbs is set up for success for this team, and vice versa. I don't think this team is set up for success with Tibbs as the coach. I do like that he's allowing the young guys to play, but that's because Derrick Rose has been in and out of the lineup, and they've had obviously no real major guard other than Jalen Brunson that they've been able to play that's any older than 28 years old. So Tibbs has kind of forced a hand here with Quentin Grimes, who's played exceptionally well and deserves every minute of the time he's had on the floor. So I hate to go 2 for 2 on coach firings here or coach, picket fence riding, whatever you want to call it. But this team it's so hard to watch. The inside game that doesn't turn into the outside game. I don't know. Randall's been really good, but I don't know. As a believer in some of the guys on this team, it's just unfortunate. So I do think the Knicks are just hard to watch, and as constructed, they don't make any sense, and they're a play-in team at best. All right, this one's going to hurt as a Lakers fan, as you see behind there on YouTube. If you're on Apple, Spotify, anywhere else that you might find your podcast, please subscribe, and come over to YouTube and take a look as well. The Lakers, this team has no clue what they are doing front office management-wise, or no clue what they're going to do, maybe other way around as well, in the offseason, and it's a sad way to see LeBron spend his final years in the league. I don't care what any of the reports are saying about they're hesitant to do this, hesitant to do that. No LeBron team has ever been hesitant, so it's going to come like a train into a brick wall or whatever, however you can stop a train, right? This train's not stopping. This train's going to run into a wall, and it's going to be abysmal. And no one's going to be happy with the result, whether it's trading Anthony Davis in the offseason or trading LeBron or figuring out some sort of resolution that involves some kind of pick swap. It just sucks. None of this is going to end well, and this team on the floor is just honestly, they're just embarrassing. It's hard to watch. Obviously, you see guys who, I don't know. I nothing against the Wendy Gabriels of the world and Juan Toscano Andersons, but this team stinks. And I mean, all the Patrick Beverly rumors that came out that were so random, I don't believe any of it. I think it's ridiculous. There has to be some merit to it the way things work now, but this Lakers team is hard to watch on the floor, and off the floor they have no idea what they're going to do, and it's going to be a really slippery slope over the next month. If they can survive through January without moving those picks, and then we see what their future looks like into February, I have no idea. I just don't think there's any reason to move Russell Westbrook at this point. Sure, he was a minus 30 last night against the Mavs, but it doesn't mean he's minus 30 for the year. He's been an unbelievable six-man. Deserves to be in the candidacy for the award, quite frankly. But he's not been able to help them continue to win basketball games with their 13-19 record. That one hurt. So, Mavericks. This team is currently constructed is a play-in team, but they're not capable of a deep playoff run. So this team is currently constructed poorly. I like the Christian Wood into the starting lineup addition. I do think that will help. But I just think giving I saw a stat obviously like 2 weeks ago now, but prior to the week of Christmas, it was basically Luka had the ball something like 25% of the entire game in his hand usage rate wise. So it's just not sustainable. Obviously there's ways, and look, you can win games with people like that. You can do things to help teams win with your star player and yada, 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 and how things work around them, giving them the ball the most. But it doesn't always work, right? Like, even with Dirk, I'm giving the Dirk wink here because they obviously gave him the statue. It was really cool to see. They did beat the Lakers, so a win and a statue. Everything was just perfect for Dallas that day. It went really well. But Merry Christmas to Mavs fans. But the team constructed, no one's hitting threes efficiently. Christian Wood, as a pick-and-roll player for Luka, needs to, quite frankly, happen more. It's starting to happen more and more every single game. Jason Kidd's starting to figure that out. I like what Spencer Dinwiddie's providing, but outside of that, this team is not capable of making a deep playoff run. They'll be a play-in team, 7, 8, 9, or 10, of course. I just don't see the way that they will work long-term. I don't know what the next year's moves looks like off-season-wise. We're too far away from that, unfortunately. All right, so that was Lakers, Mavs, Sixers, Knicks. Move on to Bucks, Celtics. The Bucks have solidified themselves as the second-best team in the East behind Boston without Middleton, or with or without Middleton, and that's okay because they can still win the title. Obviously, Boston may have to lose before that, but we're looking right now at a Bucks-Celtics Eastern Conference Finals in some form or fashion, however that shakes out. Obviously, we're a long way away from it, but the Bucks are the second-best team in the East, and that's okay because Boston is just that much better. We'll talk about Boston in just a second. Middleton would not have made a difference in this game. The Celtics completely dominated them, but I'm not here to crap on the Bucks. What I'm here to do is make sure people understand that no matter Middleton in or out of the lineup or not, he played obviously. Last time was the 15th of December, just coming back from his injury, 5 games in, excuse me. But the Bucks, they're going to be fine. Like, they're going to get into shape here. They're always a team. They've literally every single year since the new GM took over in 2019, they've made a move at the deadline. Every year. And it won them a title a few years ago, right? So the Serge Ibaka move out there, Joe Ingles, et cetera. Obviously, they already have Joe Ingles, but that's the type of guy that they would get in that market. I don't see any reason the Bucks can't just figure out a way to solidify themselves around their big three there. And just they're a great defensive team. They're scoring 1 million points. They're beating people. They're the second best team in the East. Who cares, right? Like, it's one of those things you just have to kind of let time have its course here, and the Bucks are still a title contender, and people need to not overreact to that. Also, Giannis is the best player in the world. It's close, though. The Celtics, having Robert Williams back changes the entire dynamic of this team on both sides of the ball. Only 13 minutes for him, unfortunately, against the Bucks. But at that point, it was probably a blowout in and out of the lineup. But his 2 total rebounds were both offensive, which I think is huge for them. He brings a presence that Al Horford isn't able to do offensively. Al Horford in his day was a great offensive rebounder. I'm not discrediting him whatsoever for that. But just to be transparent, Robert Williams right now, at the stages of careers they're in, is the better offensive rebounder, and he provides a spark for them on offense. In that regard, Al Horford obviously is a capable defender and defensive rebounder. But he had a block, obviously, and then also he was 3 for 4 from the field. So obviously having a strong body to throw at Giannis, that's not like a big difference or change. You could throw as many people as you want at him. Blake Griffin's going to take the brunt of that first hit pretty well as well. But just overall, Grant Williams is the best guy for that, obviously. But just having to be able to switch on defense and be able to switch on offense in the pick and roll how they want with Robert Williams is really, really nice to see. I really enjoy the Celtics. I mean, they're just beating the crap out of teams. Tatum and Brown deserve to be all-star starters themselves. If you haven't seen that TikTok video, check it out, or on any other platform I posted it on. But my all-star starters are listed in there. I'll talk about those closer to when voting starts to get concluded and we see who I think the starters who will be snubs. We'll talk about that later in the year. But the Celtics are just kicking people's butt, quite frankly, and they deserve every bit of the credit they're getting. Robert Williams is coming back at the perfect time, just before the All-Star break. Obviously, we're going to see him play a few weeks, before that All-Star break in early February. Still the title favorite as well in the East. The Grizzlies-Warriors. The first thing on the Grizzlies here, the Grizzlies are just coming into form after getting Desmond Bane back after a month off. And have nothing to worry about. I don't care about one loss to the Warriors in a rivalry type of game where the Warriors were fired up regardless, missing Steph, missing Andrew Wiggins. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the Grizzlies have nothing to worry about. They're one of the deepest teams, if not the deepest team in the NBA. They had 4 DNPs for some guys that, quite frankly, should be playing or would be playing on any other roster. Maybe I'm saying that as a guy that believes in some of these guys, but just to pull up the roster here for a second, like obviously Ja played his 40 minutes. He had 36 points. He did everything he could. Dylan Brooks had a, subpar Dylan Brooks type of game. Obviously, he's a hot shooter type of guy. He 1 for 6 from 3, 4 for 12 from the field. That's not always going to happen. Somebody's going to step up eventually. Desmond Bane only playing 24 minutes. Steven Adams only playing 21 minutes. But like I said, one of the deepest teams. Not a single player in this game played less than 14 minutes, right? All the way down to Zaire Williams. Didn't play Kennedy Chandler. Didn't play Jake LaRavia. David Roddy. Xavier Tillman. This team's 14 deep. It's nuts, right? These guys can all play. Not necessarily deep down into a playoff series. We'll find that out, obviously, later in the year. But the Warriors just were a tough matchup in this case, right? Had a lot of guys that were getting open shots in ways that they wanted. And this, like I said, this is a rivalry type of game. This was a competitive atmosphere that is going to be tough for any team to play, regardless of who's in or out of both lineups. So the Grizzlies have nothing to worry about. This is more of like a let's just breathe, take a moment. I'll exhale on the Grizzlies because everything's fine, right? I have no doubt in my mind the Grizzlies will be fine. Even as a young team, they're gonna, the young team label is only gonna last a few more years, but I do think they can win a couple playoff series like they did last year. So nothing to worry about in Memphis. Shout out to Chris Vernon. The Warriors don't have much on because obviously Steph's injury, but him being out and Wiggins being in and out is actually good for the young guys. I think this is going to be really good, valuable playing time. Obviously, we saw a 30-minute or 29-minute performance from Poole, who ended up putting up 36. He's been awesome in Steph's absence, and he obviously is warranted of every bit of those quotes, or we can say that they're warranted for everything he said about how people guard him on the second unit like he's Steph. Well, he's playing in the starting unit with no Steph. How does that work out? He's dominating teams, quite frankly. I've never been a Jordan Poole, truther by any means, but he's been unbelievable. He shot the ball efficiently and getting any touch that he wants at any point, anywhere, and he's making it. But Jordan Poole played 29 minutes. The point about the young guys playing. James Wiseman only had 8 minutes. The pick and roll ability there is going to be more seen, hopefully, if he plays more than 8 minutes. Moses Moody is the most capable defender currently, 17 minutes. And then Jonathan Kuminga, the guy that I was high on in that draft, as well as still high on to this day. Jonathan Kuminga had 16 minutes. But these guys should be playing more. Ty Jerome, I think, played 20 minutes, whatever, right? Like they should be playing these guys plenty, getting them in the rotation, especially against another young team and the Grizzlies. It makes no sense not to, right? Get them the experience. They're going to, win or lose these games half the time. So it's just frustrating to see how they don't play Wiseman more, how they could be playing Moody and Kuminga more, right? Maybe if the matchup sets don't make any sense, but like I said, with somebody like the Grizzlies who's super fast, plays in transition really well, but can also stop and play half-court defense really, really well, why not play some of these guys that can hit capable shots in the full court when they're running, right? The Warriors in that case are who I'm talking about. But no Steph, no Wiggins. I think this is really, really good for the Dubs, despite the loss, or despite the win without him. Suns Nuggets to cap off. This game was unbelievable, right? This is not here to talk about the games necessarily, but this game was insane. Obviously, part of my point with Phoenix is that they're going to be fine, but they need to figure out how to get Booker healthy, whether it's an extra couple of weeks. Obviously, as a Devin Booker owner in fantasy, I'm not happy about that, but I can survive for a few weeks without Devin Booker if it means he's going to be healthy for the playoffs, when he's going to be needed by the Suns most, as well as when he's going to look his best and put on a show for the playoffs. Monty Williams does deserve a great bit of credit for figuring out what to do in these different moments where the lineup might have some continuity issues there, and having to fill a role quickly. He's had great performances or had great spots for Landry Shamet, Damian Lee, Josh Okogie, big minutes from the Suns. But that game showed you a little bit against Denver, who's one of the most insane offenses in the NBA right now, almost historically good, right? The Phoenix is fine. They're going to be able to figure it out. They're a lot deeper than people gave them credit for in and out of the lineup with injuries. They're just coached well. They're super deep, and quite frankly, they're experienced. They know what they're doing. They have Chris Paul, who's playing another all-star type of year, despite being in and out of the lineup for about 10 games or so with that calf injury. They're going to be totally fine in the West. They're going to be a contender out there. And what is going to be seen as a bloodbath and is currently a bloodbath. The Suns, I'm not going to sit here and overreact like a lot of people might come the day after Christmas on talking head shows. Lastly, this is the whole reason I wanted to do this show, the Nuggets. I wanted to get this out, even though I think it's a little early, and I do want to talk about it in detail come closer to the All-Star break when it's the mid-season award time. But the stupid voter fatigue narrative will be the only reason that Nikola Jokic doesn't win MVP or won't be in the strong consideration for, or the final three voting, whatever they want to call it now, for MVP to complete the three-peat. It's ridiculous that he is basically being held back against his will on the fact that he's won 2 in a row already, but he's continuously shown us that he can get better every year in some facet. This year, he's a more capable offensive player in terms of playmaking. And you're probably thinking, how the heck has he done that? He's had Jamal Murray back. He's had Michael Porter Jr. back, regardless of how bad his shooting has been. He's been getting the ball to them in their spots better. Their pick and roll, Jokic and Murray, has been unbelievable. They're the third best offensive rating team in the league. They're a top 5 team in pick and roll offense. It makes no sense to say that he can't be a 3-time MVP. Joel Embiid's playing great, right? He's missed, obviously, a handful of games. That's going to hurt him when Jokic has played basically every game this year. I don't have that number in front of me, but he hasn't had a major injury or major reason to miss time. Embiid's been playing insane. Obviously, Harden's been a huge success there as well next to him. But Jokic has only gotten better. Like, the fact that his offensive potential has gotten better is insane. But his impactful defense, like, he's not in that same, like, nerd stat, whatever you want to call it, Raptor stat, all of that stuff that had him as like this otherworldly generational defender, which, by the way, those stats were true. Those stats were correct, whether you feel that way or not about them. They're true statements. Like, he is a capable, if not above average or elite, however those numbers added up, he was an elite defender last year, right? He hasn't been necessarily that as well, with a little bit more focus on the fact that Michael Porter Jr. is back in the lineup. He's a defensive liability. But Jokic has been able to be a better defender in space and at the rim because he's got the type of guys around him that can play capable defense back. Jamal Murray's not by any means a subpar defender. KCP's there now. Aaron Gordon's been playing like an unbelievable player. Got to give him his flowers, averaging 17 plus. Had the dunk of the year offensive foul. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. If you want to find the clip, it was fine. It should have probably not been offensive foul, but Aaron Gordon's been playing unbelievable, probably all-star reserve or all-star injury replacement for somebody in the West with already a pretty, I'm trying to be careful how to say this, but already pretty lackluster forward selection. I voted Larry Markin, if you didn't see it. I voted Larry Markin over Anthony Davis because of the injury. That's just fair at this point where we are. Larry Markin has been an all-star, and Anthony Davis is hurt, so it is what it is. The forward spot in the West is pretty loose. For the ability to pick all-star guys. Don't get me started on the guard position, though. But summing up or shoring up the thing around Jokic, this guy this year, or just in the last week, really, obviously, other than this year, just in the last week, I'm going to read a couple of stat lines. Didn't win Player of the Week, by the way. Luka went 3-1 and won Player of the Week in the West. But the Joker had 40 points, 27 rebounds, and 10 assists. 13 points, 13 rebounds, 13 assists. 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 11 assists. And then he had yesterday against the Phoenix Suns, 41 points, 15 rebounds, 15 assists. Didn't win Player of the Week. Luka had a 3-1 record, averaging 30 plus, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Great numbers. Don't get me wrong. Shouldn't have been Player of the Week. 4 Nuggets wins, 4 insane performances, and only 2 rebounds away from 4 triple-doubles for Nikola Jokic. So this is me. Obviously, I'm doing my best Josh impersonation, if you remember Josh on the show from last couple of months here. But I'm doing my best Josh impersonation, giving Nikola Jokic his flowers because he fully deserves it. It is what it is. Let me know your thoughts on some of the takeaways from these teams or your takeaways on these teams throughout this episode in the comments below. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, post notifications. All of that stuff is super good. I'm looking forward to releasing, this is my announcement telling you this publicly. By the time you hear this, you may hear one more pod before the new year. If not, by the time you're listening to this and it's January 1st, you will see my 2023 NBA Draft First Round Big Board will be live on my website, the TwoPointersPodcast.com. Looking forward to giving you guys that draft content as well as some more draft content coming up in the next couple of months leading up to the draft. So looking forward to talk about it more. Two Pointers Podcast or the TwoPointersPodcast.com. All the links in the description where you can like, subscribe, follow on all the social medias. Thank you for the support over the last couple of weeks. I'm recording this on December 26, 2022. Today is officially the 2-year anniversary of the Two Pointers Podcast. So thank you very much for all the support over the last 2 years. It's been unbelievable. I'm forever grateful for all the support on the show. Don't forget to check out Dubby Energy, link in the description, or 2 Pointers in your cart at checkout for 10% off your order. I think that's it for me. A lot of stuff at the end there to plug, but just wanted to make sure that I got it in there. If you guys supported the show, please continue to do all that stuff efficiently. I greatly appreciate it. Let me know in the comments your favorite gift that you got this Christmas, basketball or otherwise related. So thank you for listening today. Thank you for watching. This has been the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. We'll see you later.